You probably remember this diagram from high school. You and your lab partners may have even had to collect the data directly during chemistry or physical science class. I know I made my students do it. You were handed a small sample of water ice in a container, and you started adding heat to it until it was steaming hot. You were asked to measure time and temperature. You were tasked to make a plot of the two, a diagram of time change versus temperature change. Lo and behold, as we say in both the science lab and the sanctuary, lo and behold, you discovered that there were points where the minutes were ticking by and the temperature did not change. One was when the ice was melting, the other was when the water had reached the boiling point. Those points, I, or your science teacher explained, is when change occurs, when matter goes from one state of being into another, solid to liquid, liquid to gas. And different points and different mixtures have different boiling points. Oh, the tech team is also supposed to change the slide too. So these different substances have different specific heat capacities, how much energy they can absorb before it makes them change. Some have a higher capacity to absorb more than others, and some took less before they would cause change to occur. And pressure changes the boiling point too. It might depend if you were high in the mountains or at sea level. You might hit your boiling point with a lot less pressure depending on what your elevation was, depending on your altitude and your attitude. And then science class would end and you would go to social studies, where you might learn that people are not precisely like phase change, but our plans and our promises and our priorities have some striking similarities. And I think we are at a boiling point in this country. We are at a time of change here at UUFBR. This country is having a moment. Our church is having a moment too. Now, right now, every moment now. And that's as far as I had gotten in writing this sermon in my head. Some things happened to change my mind, and it was going to be such a barn burner of a sermon to an angry young man preaching with fire and brimstone. I was going to give it with both barrels, full of explosives and expletives. If you stir the pot, you gotta lick the spoon. And I was also going to talk about the pagan festival of Imbolc, one of the 4 cross-quarter days, which are midway between a solstice and an equinox. The last one was Halloween. The next one is going to be on May Day. In Christianity, it's Candlemas and the Feast of St. Bridget. And there are very few historical facts about St. Bridget. Her early hagiographies are mainly miracle stories based on a pre-Christian Celtic goddess, Bridget, the goddess of poets and of women of wisdom. Saint or goddess, Bridget represents a magical melting point, a divine power to bring people from the dark half of the year, the season of winter, into the light half of the year. Warming weather turning ice into springtime thaw and showers, and nature waking up bird, beasts, and flower blossoms. And this syncretism shows up in a bunch of folk customs. For example, in German folklore, if the sun appears on this holy day, a hedgehog would cast a shadow, meaning a second winter. Sound familiar? Yeah. It's similar to American Groundhog Day because the Pennsylvania's early settlers were mainly German. And compare that with bears from Berlin foretelling winter weather. Hungarians held that on this day, bears come out of their dens, and if they see their shadows, because it's sunny, they get scared and they go back to sleep. and that's thought that it's meant to be cold again. But if there is no shadow, the bears stay outside, knowing that this is the last attempt at winter, and the cold weather will soon be over. Nowadays, children dress up like bears, and they eat honey and they light candles, and it's during a festival that they call Our Lady of Candlelight. And in Spain, in the mountainous regions of Catalonia, this is the holiday traditionally identified as when bears emerge from hibernation. So accordingly, there are bear festivals. Someone dresses up as a bear and he goes around annoying the populace, and it's celebrated in a big carnival. But I got into my car after last Sunday's spectacular service by John, and I'm thinking about creativity and the time it takes to make art, and the boiling point, and the roaring and raging and rampaging of bears. And I turn on my radio, which, like a good Unitarian Universalist, is tuned to NPR. And the guest is speaking about current events and mentioned about turning the other cheek, which again, like a good Unitarian Universalist, I recognized as an expression of UU inspiration, the Christian teachings which call on us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbor as ourselves. It comes from the Sermon on the Mount, to respond without retort to insult. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, Jesus says, "You heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, tell him to turn the other also." The Sermon on the Mount. Next slide. But that wasn't all. Later on, I'm listening to NPR's Hidden Brain podcast. Next slide, please. And the guest, Baylor University psychiatrist Sarah Schnickney, ran a study involving Muslim adolescents during the month of Ramadan, which starts on February 18th. She said, yes, Ramadan in Islam is actually called the month of patience. During the month of Ramadan, devout Muslims will dry fast from sunrise to sunset. That means no food or drink, not even water across all of daylight. This is an incredibly challenging time, but it's also a time of great spirituality. And that Islamic community, you see that there are all kinds of special rituals and prayers and meals to break fast or to begin it. What we found in our research is that when teenagers are engaged in this practice, at the sacred time of Ramadan, they actually grew in their patience. And what was really cool is when the month after Ramadan is over, so just back to normal daily life, they actually sustained some of the gains in patience. So they were actually more patient than before Ramadan had begun. So what we interpret going on here is that they really feel like they are doing this really difficult training in patience, and it feels like suffering in the moment, and you really want to be able to get that drink, and you have to wait for that sun to set. Is difficult. So when they practice patience, but do it for a bigger reason, to the glory of Allah, to be part of their community, and to do this together with others, it really seemed to be a powerful intervention that I'm not doing this for myself or my physical fitness. I'm doing this because this is what good Muslims do. And we're doing this for the sake of a higher power. And that is an incredibly potent experience. And our data shows that it indeed has these benefits for patients in the long term. The final piece came from our own Claire here at UUFBR at the fellowship. I was on a Zoom call with her, and she shared this wisdom, which I paraphrase. At UUFBR, we have too many pots on the stove. And if pots are boiling over in your life, take it off the stove. We have too many things we are trying to do. How can we right-size to be effective? Rather than run from pot to pot, what can we take off the stove? So, yes, I am still at my boiling point, but not like I expected, with a head full of steam. Do not forget, the boiling point is a point of transformation. And transformation is one of our shared Unitarian values. Amazingly, I'm transforming my mindset to self-regulation. Because transformation occurs like in a phase change, persistent and powerful, but taking patience. Or as my parents told me, the watched pot never boils. Have a plan, make preparations, pick your moments and follow your principles. This was my frame of mind when Nancy Hutter emailed me about our church's strategic plan, a team that's doing fantastic work. To go further, we need to be thinking about what and who we center by how we worship, how we nurture spiritual growth, how we make decisions, and what we decide to resource here at UUFBR. I'll share a part of her email with all y'all. The strategic planning team has decided to pause. This is a strategic pause, not a loss of momentum. Your feedback has been documented and will be revisited so it can be meaningfully informing future direction once new ministerial leadership is in place. Across responses, consistent themes emerged. Stability before expansion. Foundational work matters right now. Connection and participation are key challenges. Leadership and energy are stretched. Religious education for children is an urgent exception. Incidentally, that's why I shared grilled cheese, please. I teach about patience and the idea that a community suddenly moving into action is like tomato soup reaching its boiling point. Okay, what this means moving forward. In response to your feedback, our near focus will be on ministerial search, creating the right relations team, HEART, and training of the team to support the congregation's new approach to handling conflict. Hope for us conflict resilience training for lay leaders and others, and continuing reimagining worship to incorporate suggestions from feedback sessions, including a justice spotlight in worship. Justice, like healing justice? Because that is challenging for me. How can I be at the boiling point of protest, but at the same time, still be patient and peaceful? There may be no ice. That doesn't mean you can cook with it. I know what I saw with my own two eyes, and I heard the lies they tried to get me to believe. It's not good, and it's not pretty. American history is not short on political institutions and arrangements that seemed permanent until they weren't. I keep coming back to slavery and Jim Crow civil rights. When Lincoln and others were founding the Republican Party with the express purpose of limiting the expansion of slavery, actually ending the institution seemed like a remote possibility. While opposing the expansion of slavery, Lincoln conceded that the Constitution limited the ability to eliminate it where it existed. It wasn't until a bloody and bitter Civil War that the 13th Amendment ended slavery. But the underlying politics did shift by threatening the integrity of the Union. The Southern states had overplayed their hands. And over the course of the war, it became clear that the cause for unity had to be fused with the cause of ending slavery. Political meanings could shift and political actors could use their powers a new way. The passage of civil rights legislation in the 1960s had seemed nearly intractable for decades. The Jim Crow South was a violent system, and violence primarily aimed at minority communities. As the movement to protect political, civil, and human rights of African Americans grew, violence spilled over to white Americans who were active in the movement. Sound familiar? Several factors built up to a breaking point in the 1960s. More pressure against peaceful protesters, assassinations, John F. Kennedy, RFK, Martin Luther King. And the legacy of JFK was invoked by his predecessor, Lyndon Johnson, when he pushed for that final passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Julia Zara was writing in Good Politics, Bad Politics Substacks, and concludes, and when the opportunity for real change happens, there's one more important lesson of the past. Policy change needs to be accompanied and followed by imagination about alternatives. At the end of slavery and Jim Crow, backlash forces defined the next period of politics, in part because the politicians who pushed for change didn't have a blueprint for how to link political and social change, or a clearly articulated vision for what society should look like going forward. Well, I've got a vision and values to share. Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. And justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where all free, welcome, and can thrive. Which is why, rather than the sermon of an angry young man, I thought we could have a snowball fight. I know it's South Florida and it doesn't snow, but it is really chilly today. If you're in the sanctuary with me and you go into your order of service right now, you'll see you have some scrap paper. And the scrap paper has snowflake emojis on it, just waiting for you to crumple it up into a ball and pretend that it's a paper snowball to throw it on someone. By the way, you probably noticed that it has a graph on it, just like the phase change diagram at the boiling point. But this time, instead of time and temperature, it plots justice on a scale of accountability to love. So students, today in class, I ask you to take out your pencils and your pens. Oh, I love that look. My students had that look in classroom too. Yeah, don't forget, you got pencils in the canvas bag at the end of the row. Go into the canvas bag, take out a pencil, pass it to the person next to you. Bello Maestro, a little snowflake music, please. We're going to take about 4 minutes here for you to fill in words that resonate with you on your justice card. Take a pencil and think about your answers to these questions. Snowflake music, please. Love is the doctrine of this faith. Yes? Love centers all the values that we share: justice, equity, and transformation. So what does justice look like when we're not centering it in love, and there's little or there's no accountability in our communities? Could you draw a picture? Could you write a word or a phrase in the lower left-hand quadrant of the graph? Show me what you think. I'll tell you, for me, it looks a lot like what ICE is doing in cities like Los Angeles and Minneapolis. I mean, there's love, but there doesn't seem to be accountability coming from the government. So let me ask the next question then. What would justice look like if we centered it in love? If we did center it in love. If we are not centering it in love, but if we did center it in love, but we had little accountability or no accountability. Draw a picture, write a poem, for me, I think about the old story about the frog in the boiling pot of water. It doesn't notice that it's getting hotter and hotter. So I'm going to do my best here to lower right hand pot, put some bubbles in it, showing that there's water. Whoever gets hit by my snowball, don't laugh at my frog. I did the best I could. And y'all, what does justice look like? What would it look like if we centered it in love, but there would be high accountability in our community? If we did hold our government officials and our leaders culturally and religion, high accountability to our community, what would that look like? I think it would look a lot like Unitarian Universalism, so I'm going to draw our chalice. And again, if you get hit by my snowball, y'all can laugh. Because I've had years of high school students laughing at my drawings. Yeah. When you're done, raise your hand so I know that you're done with the drawing. If not, I'll give you another minute. By the way, you got 2 graphs, so you can do it twice. You can make a second snowball. Or if you made a mistake, just use the other snowball. Oh, and I'm talking to you. Y'all can talk to each other. This isn't a test. This is a lab experience. If you're on Zoom, put it in the chat. Right in. What does justice look like when we are centering it in love and there's high accountability with our communities? By the way, that's also going to be our coffee conversation question. That's it. Okay, time is up. Now, ball up your paper and listen to my instructions. When I ring the bowl, you are going to throw snowballs at each other. You all ready? Ball up those snowballs. Okay, ready? Snowball fight! Okay. Pick up someone's snowball and read their answer aloud to the people who are next to you in the row. This is good. This person wrote down sanity. What a great word. You didn't get snowball?
When there's no accountability at the bottom, they wrote ice.
I don't know if I can read it. Help me out.
Hippy dippy. Joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy.
It's yours. But I rather not interpret.
All three? No. For the second one, only my family prospers. I'm not accountable to anybody else, including my community.
Law of the jungle. Yeah, that's low accountability there. Can I stick a microphone in? What you got?
Okay, let's see. For the high love and high accountability, we have a very smiley face with UU values under it, and it says change and responsibility ownership.
Awesome. What about you guys in the back?
I have one from Zoom from Carol Stevens, and she says, it looks like fairness, like peace.
But y'all were not hit by a snowball? You were now. Y'all are very profound and poetic. It's almost like y'all have been blessed by the goddess Bridget herself. And so that's where I want to end the snowball fight. Blessed be. Amen. Namaste.